twists it in a new way. Most famously, the source material for Romeo and Juliet scolds the lovers, and Shakespeare honors them. And that play, that riff, that change around of the source that a lot of people in the audience knew is what is so inspiring in his work. I am very familiar with this, of course, because I write songs for people on their birthdays. And I take a song that already exists, and then I just kind of twist it around a little bit for the birthday. And what's funny about the songs is the play on the source, right? So in my class, for instance, we just sang the Justin Bieber song, Baby, Baby, Baby. NAFTA, 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 ooh. And they didn't get it because they're too young for Justin Bieber. So it used to be funny. So this feeling that you're getting me and I'm getting you, and we can go anywhere together, is what I'm seeing now from Shakespeare. I have experienced it myself only once or twice. Remember that time? And I have felt left out in the cold, like this is somebody else's play, many times. But those times when I was right there, I was the best me that I could be. I was drawn out of myself. I was not being taught something I already know. I was following something that was just out of my reach. And I could just barely get it, and it was so far out there that I have not stopped thinking about it. 25 years. I have not settled it yet in my mind. So I, after that, never went back to bear baiting. I have to say, I left that world behind me utterly. What is frustrating to scholars is that Shakespeare seems to have been perfectly uninterested in leaving any physical trace of his presence in London theater or even on this earth, to a degree that is astonishing. There is not a shred of anything by Shakespeare around. Nothing. There is nothing. There are a couple of signatures. After he sort of retired from playwriting, he sued somebody for $20, and there's the record of that. He was baptized, we have that. He died. He had kids and got married, and they died. There are 5 years when nobody knows anything about where he was. From 20 to 25, he vanished, the lost years. They weren't lost to him. He was there, but he didn't bother leaving a record because at the time, he was not William Shakespeare. He was just him. No drafts, no laundry lists, no letters. There's not a letter by Shakespeare. No greeting cards, no memos, no outlines, no notes for a play. There's not one text in his handwriting. There is a text that is in the handwriting of 4 different people, of whom one might be Shakespeare, although a lot of, what do you think about that? Yes, no?
I think it is.
Oh, yes, it definitely is. And so, there's nothing, which means that he really didn't care. He really didn't care what happened to his stuff. It would not have been unimaginable to get a box in Elizabethan times and put copies of the play into the box and write on it, my plays. I mean, we can work with that image. That is conceivable, right? Nothing. There is nothing. And the only people who get that, of course, are classroom teachers, because you know what we have to show for it? Not a thing in this world. Everything we do vanishes. There's not a box labeled things I said in my class or things that happened in social studies in 2016. What would I put in there? A conversation? Would I record things? Or will I leave it to one of my students 30 years later to write down stuff that they wrongly remembered that I had said? We're not in business to create artifacts. We're in business to do this, to have us. And Shakespeare's complete lack of care for the residue is very inspiring to me, if not the most inspiring thing. Tuesday afternoon happened. If you were there, didn't we have a great time? And if you weren't, sorry. And so you could, for an entire day's wage, sometimes buy a paperback copy of one of the plays. But really, what would be the point of that? First of all, you can't read. And second of all, what, are you going to act it out with your friends? It's not going to be as good. Are you going to read over it and remember? You can remember it without that. You were there. You were paying attention. So about half of the plays that we know of by Shakespeare were printed in little cheap, flimsy paperback editions. And half of the plays that are in the first folio that was collected 7 years after he died were never printed. There's nothing we have of them except that they're now in the folio. And Antony and Cleopatra is one of them. That play would not exist except for the efforts of Shakespeare's friends who put together, after he died, the first folio. So Shakespeare himself had nothing to do with anything involving the printing of his plays. He really did not care. And let me tell you something. Once in 2006, I think it was February, we had a great pizza. So we saved some of the toppings and put them away so we would remember that pizza that we had. And they're all dried and shriveled up now. Remember the pizza? This was part of it. No. We ate the pizza, okay? It was delicious. That was pizza night, and we ate the pizza. Things happen, and they happen. And what we have of them after they've happened is us, to whom they happened. We're obsessed now with the detritus, with the spore of writers. We're just crazy for it. And it is admirable of Shakespeare, I think, to slip in and out of this world and leave nothing behind. It only makes me think more and more that what he cared about was the moment. And he cared about nothing else. He walked away from London theater and never wrote a word, not a thank you card, not a recipe. And lived another 5 years, and then he died. 400 years ago, right now. Who knows what was in his mind? We did have some good times, but the Globe, man, we could pack them in. That was fun. I made a lot of money, and I loved it when they kept coming in and coming in and coming back. And they're standing outside, bear-baiting Shakespeare, bear-baiting Shakespeare, and they would come to me. And when they came to me, I could hold them. I could get them. I could make them reach, and I had them. And then he stopped. I think he was tired. And I think that energy was absent from him. And so he walked away. And he said, our revels now are ended. These are actors, as I foretold you. We're all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind.